Now, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has said that there is a serious threat at Russia-occupied and nuclear power plant on November 6, 2025 in Zaporizhzhia, southeastern Ukraine, once a symbol of Europe's energy strength. The nuclear power plant had been turned by Russia into a drone war command brain, a hub that coordinated all UAV strike operations across southern Ukraine. In just the past 21 days, more than 480 drone attacks had devastated the entire southern front, home to more than 1.7 million Ukrainian civilians, causing widespread destruction. Ukraine immediately launched Operation Iron Halo. 25 F-15 E-Strike Eagles took off, each armed with 4,500 kilograms of precision weapons, supported by 54 PD-2 drones, engineered for electronic suppression and radar deception using swarms of false signals. The skies over Zaporizhzhia ignited. Could this coordinated strike erase Russia's drone command brain? Or would Moscow's billion-dollar defense system turn the plan into ashes? Let's uncover the truth. November 6, 2025, 9:45 p.m. Zaporizhzhia, southeastern Ukraine. For weeks, Russian forces have turned the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, into something no one imagined possible. A war brain beneath the concrete domes and cooling towers. Technicians are not working to generate electricity, but to coordinate war. Inside a reinforced administrative bunker, a command center operates around the clock. Hundreds of screens, multiple satellite links, and encrypted data channels directing swarms of UAVs across southern Ukraine. Operators work in shifts day and night. 120 personnel divided into monitoring, targeting, and strike teams. For 21 consecutive nights, Ukraine's frontline positions were hammered by waves of strikes. Intelligence estimates 480 Russian drone sorties were flown from this single network in 3 weeks. Those missions destroyed 72 Ukrainian military vehicles, wrecked 6 field hospitals, and killed or wounded more than 300 soldiers. Analysts calculate this command center accounts for nearly 40% of Russian UAV attacks on the southern battlefield. The material routed through the bunker, transmitters, relay trucks, high-gain antennas, and reserve UAVs is conservatively valued at $1.1 billion. The human cost is visible in every number. Each drone sortie costs roughly $25,000. This network has burned nearly $12 million a week in ammunition and operating costs while inflicting heavy losses on frontline units. Civil infrastructure damage runs into the tens of millions. Bridges, grain stores, and electrical substations struck in coordinated raids. At 10 o'clock, Kiev's Joint Command issued the order. Neutralize the radioactive source. The target is clear. An underground command center buried 30 m below ground. The risk extraordinarily high. Radiation proximity elevated. Delay would mean continued slaughter and mounting costs. This operation demands precision and courage. 25 F-15 E-Strike Eagles will fly into occupied airspace before dawn. Their mission: wipe out the brain of Russia's drone war. No speeches, no politics, only coordinates and the harsh arithmetic of war. The silence before the storm has begun. 3:20 a.m. Dnipro Air Command Center. Orders have been signed less than 2 hours earlier. Now, under the cold fluorescent lights of the command bunker near Nero, the strike plan took shape line by line, coordinate by coordinate. On the central display, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant glowed red. 6 square miles of fortified territory now serving as a Russian drone fortress around it. Layers of air defense, 2 S-400 Triumph batteries guarding the outer perimeter, and 4 Pantsir S-1 system station within a 5 m radius. Each battery could track 80 targets simultaneously and fire missiles worth $400,000 apiece. Any misstep would mean instant annihilation. The Ukrainian air staff called the plan Operation Iron Halo. Its core, 25 F-15E Strike Eagles, each carrying 2 GBU-72 precision bunker buster bombs, 5,000 pounds of guided steel and explosive force. Support assets included 54 PD-2 unmanned drones configured for electronic suppression and decoy insertion. They would flood Russian radars with false signatures, jam narrowband frequencies, and force the S-400 operators to chase ghosts. Satellite data from Lanteras 9 reconnaissance revealed shifts in Russian power readings inside the bunker, proof that generators were. Active 24/7 intelligence estimated over $200 million in UAV command gear stored. Underground, Kiev's analysts concluded a direct hit could underscore Russia's southern drone network for at least 90 days, saving potentially 10,000 Ukrainian lives on the front. No one in the room spoke loudly. The hum of projectors and the clicking of keyboards filled the air like a heartbeat. At 2350, the final coordinates were locked. 47.51111 degrees north, 34.5850 degrees east, 25 aircraft, 49 bombs, waiting to be unleashed. The countdown had begun, not for takeoff, but for history's most dangerous decision before dawn. Could this operation truly erase the brain of Russia's drone war? Or would Ukraine be flying straight into one? Iron Trap, 4:28 a.m., 12 miles northwest of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The horizon was stained with ash as 25 F-15 airstrike Eagles roared into a combat formation. Call signs from Iron 1 to Iron 25 each carried 4,500 kilograms of precision bombs, flares, countermeasures, and the will of a nation above them. 54 PD-2 drones flew in a swarm, releasing thousands of phantom signals like drifting ghosts. Sparks, they were the first shield, and inside it was the strike force of steel. At exactly 4:30 a.m., Russia's first alarm sounded on the command monitors. 49 target signatures flickered. Chaos ignited instantly inside Russia's bunkers. Two S-400 Triumph batteries locked on and launched a volley of 24 interceptors, each worth $400,000, reaching speeds of Mach 14. A few miles beyond the perimeter, 6 Pantsir S-1 units opened fire, spewing 1,200 rounds of 23mm shells per minute, turning the sky into a tornado of metal. The first jamming signals were torn apart. Within 90 seconds, 34 PD-2s were shot down, each shredded by cannon fire, each hunted down by missiles. But the remaining drones stayed on mission, jamming, casting decoy shadows, forcing Russian radar to split its tracking beams into dozens of meaningless directions. And that was the moment Ukraine had waited for. 25 F-15E dove in. No more decoy layer in front. Only speed, altitude, and resolve. Within 91 seconds, the S-400 radar was overwhelmed and the Pantsir consoles drowned in false returns. Then came the moment of silence. Released 16 GBU-72S, each weighing 2,260 kg, pierced the pale cloud layer and plunged straight toward the underground control sector. The first impact struck at 4:33 a.m. The underground command center, buried 30 m beneath reinforced concrete, absorbed the first hit, then the second. A heartbeat later, the entire structure erupted with a shock wave equal to 120 tons of TNT. Inside, 200 servers, 12 satellite links, and drone control systems worth roughly $900 million vaporized. Secondary detonations followed. 480 reserve UAVs, 30 fuel bays, and 14 transmission relays incinerated in a chain of fire reaching 2,800 degrees. C. Phase 2 struck the backup node. A. Support trailer carrying relay drones and signal repeaters. A direct hit fire engulfed the complex, triggering the explosion of the UAV fuel depot. At least 146 Russian personnel were killed instantly. Officers, engineers, and drone operators, with more than 210 others wounded. The destruction of this site left Moscow facing an estimated $1.4 billion in hardware and infrastructure losses in the drone network across southern Ukraine went offline within 6 minutes. With the objective secured, Iron 1 turned away, and the sky resembled a battlefield map. Not a sunrise, but the brain of Russia's drone war collapsing into dust. Stay with this video. The most dangerous part isn't the strike. It's what Russia does the moment the smoke clears. 6:10 a.m., 11:45 a.m. when the flames inside the Zaporizhzhia command bunker finally settled, Moscow was left staring at a battlefield it could no longer recognize. In less than 3 minutes, the strike had erased what Russian engineers spent 14 months constructing: a drone nerve center that controlled almost 40% of UAV operations in southern Ukraine. By sunrise, the full scale of the disaster began to bleed into Russian channels. Quietly at first, then in waves, the losses were staggering. Initial intercepts from Russian emergency networks reported 146 personnel killed and over 210 wounded, including senior drone coordinators, electronic warfare specialists, and satellite link operators. A follow-up internal assessment leaked later that afternoon described the site as functionally vaporized. Of the 200 command servers, not a single one survived the bunker satellite relay rack, worth $120 million alone, had been reduced to a trench of molten metal. The destruction of material was equally catastrophic. A total of 210 UAVs, Orlan 10s, Lancet 3s, Shahid derivatives, and reconnaissance drones were confirmed destroyed in there. Storage cradles, fuel bladders detonated. In sequence, 32 tons of JP-8 equivalent burned in under 10 minutes. The blast also shattered 14 encrypted data uplinks, severing the Southern Command from its drone operators across Melitopol, Berdansk, and Tokmak. But the worst blow was invisible, the collapse of Russian situational awareness. Without the Zaporizhzhia nerve center, Moscow lost 87% of its drone-based reconnaissance over a 60-mile front line. Artillery response time slowed from minutes to over 2 hours. Battalion commanders were left with only ground spotters and scattered thermal feeds. In one intercepted message, a Russian officer described the situation as complete blindness. Financial analysts inside Ukraine later estimated Russia's total losses at $1.4 billion, the single most expensive infrastructure failure of the war caused by one strike. Package insurance models from European defense think tanks projected that rebuilding the underground facility to its previous capacity would require 12 to 18 months, assuming uninterrupted logistics, an impossibility under wartime conditions. By late morning, Russian media attempted to frame the blast as minor, but satellite photos told another story. A 300-foot crater, a burned-out control annex, and a plume of smoke visible 27 miles away. Russia had not merely lost a building. It had lost its eyes, its reach, and the illusion that Zaporizhzhia was untouchable. In the days that followed, the true weight of the Zaporizhzhia airstrike settled over the region like dust after a collapsing building. The destruction of the drone command center did not merely underscore Russia's UAVs. It changed the rhythm of the entire southern front. For the first time in 9 months, Ukrainian brigades advanced without being watched from above. Artillery teams reported a 64% reduction in incoming fire. Medical units saw casualty rates drop from 38 wounded per day to fewer than 11. These numbers said what no words could fully express. By November 8th, satellite imagery confirmed that the paralysis was not temporary Russian drone activity across Zaporizhzhia, Melitopol, and the eastern Dnipro corridor had fallen from 480 sorties per week to 0. Analysts estimated that Russia had lost the equivalent of 3 full UAV regiments. In a single morning, a technological cut, off valued at more than $1.4 billion. But the deeper cost for Moscow was time. Rebuilding a hardened command center, reestablishing satellite links, and replacing the lost drone reserves would take between 12 and 18 months. No military at war can survive that kind of silence. For Ukraine, the lesson was not about firepower, but about precision. A single strike, carefully planned and bravely executed, can reshape an entire battlefield. 25 jets had flown into the teeth of a multi-layered air defense system and shattered what Russia believed to be untouchable. Their success proved a simple but devastating equation. Russia may launch thousands of drones, but if the brain guiding them collapses, the swarm dies with it. And for the world watching, the lesson was equally clear. Modern war is not fought only with missiles, tanks, or manpower, but with information, networks, and the invisible threads that bind them together. If those threads are severed, even the strongest army can stumble in broad daylight. The Zaporizhzhia strike became a reminder that courage, intelligence, and timing can outweigh sheer numbers. Numbers alone do not determine victory. Decisions do. And in the early hours of November 8th, Ukraine made the one decision that reshaped the battlefield and forced Moscow to face a truth it had long feared. Nothing in this war is out of reach. By November 9th, the smoke over Zaporizhzhia had thinned into a gray ribbon, drifting east, a reminder of what once stood beneath it. News of the strike reached Kyiv in fragments at first. Confirmation of impact, confirmation of collapse, confirmation that the drone network in the entire southern sector had gone dark. Then came the last message, transmitted in a single line from the Aviation Command Center. Mission complete. All aircraft accounted for the families of the men flying those jets, it meant life. For the battalions on the southern front line, it meant breathing space they had known in nearly a year. And for the Russian command, it meant something far more costly, the realization that their strongest fortress could be reached, cracked open, and erased in minutes. Analysts across Europe and the U.S. would later call it the most surgically precise strike of the war. 1. Operation 25 jets, 54 drones, and an adversary's billion-dollar war machine, reduced to fire and dust. In a conflict defined by drones and saturation. Tactics, Ukraine had proven sharper. Truth, strategy still beats quantity. Timing still beats size, and courage still outruns technology. The destruction of the Zaporizhzhia command center did not end the war. It did not stop the missiles or erase the front lines, but it changed the momentum. It disrupted the rhythm Moscow relied on, and it reminded every soldier in a trench, every pilot in the sky, and every family watching the news that Ukraine was still capable of shaping the battlefield, not merely enduring it. As evening fell over Kyiv, the city lights flickered on. No celebration, no speech, just quiet acknowledgement. A nation wounded but unbroken. A nation that still fights back. And on the southern horizon, the last trace of smoke drifted into the night, carrying with it the wreckage of Russia's drone empire and the proof that even in the darkest hours before dawn, precision and resolve can change the course of a war. If you found this analysis insightful and want to support more in-depth breakdowns like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next unfolding conflict.